we're coming out dangerous.
Rockets going off.
Sometimes the brightest stars shine for the shortest amount of time.
Yeah, oh yeah.
They heard us all across Tallahassee after that one.
We got to bring home the W.
Oh, yeah. We're going to destroy them.
Put them on the Heisman watch.
They're fine, man.
Big Ben Player of the Year.
We're going to be a force to be reckoned with.
I played a little adult league goalie.
I felt like I scored in the World Cup, but I didn't even score.
Controversy? Question mark?
Pure chaos.
Go crazy was insane.
Chris Petley, he was the defensive MVP of the 2019 season.
Oh yeah, no, I'm in my prime right now. Let's go.
All right, and welcome aboard here. Beginnings, conversation starters, season openers, everything getting ready to roll for you here today. The TallySCtalk podcast. I'm Andrew Jupe. Unfortunately, a solo venture for us today, but with the season budding and some exciting things happening around the club or some topics of conversation that perhaps need to be had or thought about or asked potentially will be the better acknowledgement here of the exercise. Welcome, however you may be doing so. We appreciate you coming along with us, however you may be joining us, whether it's for the clips, whether it's for the people, whether it's for anything here. So, of course, shout out to you, the Tallahassee Soccer Club community, or for those just fans of lower league soccer, potentially more aptly put here. Of course, the longest running podcast here in the Gulf Coast Sunshine Conference, whatever we may be affiliating with this year. However you may be joining us, like you said, we'll meet you where you are. Find us TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, of course. We got the website pumped up as well at TallySCtalk. Well, however you may be able to join us, whatever your favorite platform is. Appreciate it if you get on there. Make some noise whenever possible, or just reach out. Hey, how can we make this better? What do you want to know about your club, your league, your situation, your players, your environment, what, right? Because ultimately it's for the people, for the fam. TallySCtalk, we take the people's feedback very seriously here, and we love to give them something that they're interested about, and, of course, supporting your local club. So don't be afraid to hit that up and let us know. We had some great exercise for that this season, and even getting ready for the season opener here, which I think is kind of the theme of the podcast, is going to be pressing questions here for you today. So with those pressing questions, let's get on into it. The action that we have here today. Of course, just your humble man here, host of the TallySCtalk podcast, Andrew Jupe. 3 things that I always want to know that's going into the season, and 3 questions that I always have, because you think about the scene of lower league soccer, and this is kind of a diehards kind of train of thought, maybe something you're thinking about, but maybe a little highbrow as far as depth within the franchise, but nothing can be assumed here in lower league soccer. So 1 to 4 questions, depending on how you rank them, that I think are absolutely crucial to determine the next steps of what the season can be, and then we can start to get into some tertiary options. So question number 1. Is the team going to come back? The answer is yes. So the team will be back. This is going to be year 7 of the franchise. It'll be the 6th season of play, obviously the COVID year. And of course, for those fans of the podcast, you know it's going to be season 5 of the podcast, episode 44. So thanks for coming along with us and joining us, however you may be jumping on the bandwagon or however long you've been in the mix. Appreciate you. Hopefully you enjoy. If not, feel free to roast us in the comments, because why else do you have social media, right? So team is coming back. Boom, success. Next question is, who's in charge? Who's the boss? We, of course, know that management is made up of a nonprofit organization with a board. They ultimately determine where the course of the team will go. So, of course, the board has met, and your president, which is kind of the poster boy and founder of the club, Mr. Chris Petley, still in charge here, but you don't really care about that necessarily unless you're for those diehards and maybe you're the family members of them going forward. Obviously, we care about them. Great relationship with the board, and love to help see them and continue a great working relationship, which we've had for now going on 5 years. So who's the coach, I think, is more aptly put. So it has been confirmed Coach Joel DeCastri is back to renew another season here with the club. And then rumors have it he's bringing his typical staff back with us. So for those fans, hopefully we have no clarification on concrete people that'll be concluded in there, of course, with his assistant staff, but we're hoping Coach BMAC and Coach Solari, which we're pretty confident are going to be back into the mix. Hopefully we see Coach Villardo and a couple of the others that we've known to grow and love, but that's a big step. So that's kind of the second checkbox here that you have for TSC for those pressing questions. So question number 3, I think, comes to the table is, hey, where are we going to be? What are we going to be playing in? So Tallahassee has been playing in the National Premier Soccer League, the NPSL. Of course, we've had some beef with the league here on the podcast, so we will often to refer to them as the league here going forward. We want to, for explanation purposes, keep things clean in the beginning of this season of the podcast, but they will often be referred to as the National League or the league going forward, just because of some, let's say, rifts or some issues that we've had going forward. But that is looking pretty good. I would not put a heavy financial investment in it, but things are trending well. If I had to guess today, I don't have official confirmation, been reading between the lines and have confidence going forward that it will be NPSL, but there's still some TBD on that, and I would not 100% bank on that, me personally. So, take that as you will. It's the default, of course, with this level of play. They want to keep it in this kind of tier 4 realm, this semi-professional situation. And it'd be really tough based on the landscape here in North Florida and in the Southeast to make a change. So if things go bad, I'm confident that there is an escape route, so to speak. So, I'd put it 75% that it's looking like NPSL, which may be a little underselling it. But for those who care, pretty confident that that's what it is looking at. So those are kind of the 3 big questions that I have. A kind of piggyback question off of that would be, okay, what's our conference looking like? Not only, okay, so we're in this random league, right? If you're not a diehard, which is cool, we understand that. Sometimes you just like to go watch soccer, support your city, or maybe your friends are the players here going forward. But basically, what that shapes out is usually we're focused in the Southeast. So last year we were in a conference of teams from New Orleans to Miami. Pretty big spread. There was a Georgia team in there. Jacksonville was in there. Pensacola, a couple of teams from Naples, Southwest Florida. And that was basically our spread here of 8 teams. So no official word on what the teams look like. But if I had to put a guesstimation on it, this is what I would build the conference at. Once again, reading between the lines, some information that can be shared, some information that can't be shared. But if I had to guess right now, I'd say the conference is sitting at 6 teams, of course, in that same kind of similar area. I think New Orleans is coming back. Obviously, they have ties with the league. Their ownership and their coach are on the national board for the league, as discussed. So confident that they will be into the mix with us, just because geographically they're kind of an outlier. And although it doesn't make a lot of sense that they're with us, which we'll get into, or if you want to check out a previous episode, we're going to go ahead and put that link up here now. That was a fun discussion. But that is what we think here. So New Orleans is going to be one. We think Jacksonville is going to be coming back as well. Pensacola, we know they're on kind of a year-by-year basis with the league. So we feel confident that Pensacola is going to be back as well. We saw an announcement not only on social media, but from some of our back channels, some of our sources indicating at least one Naples team is going to be back in the mix, Global Pathways, and then pretty confident once again through the back channels and through social media that Miami is once again into the mix. So a couple things that are outliers there. As you add them up, you may be wondering, hey, we're missing 2 teams from last year's mix. Remember, there were 2 Naples teams. If I had to guess, I think there's only one this year, and I think that's the global team, just because in an upper level of soccer, Naples United, which has been kind of the flagship team up there, they've also got some next level soccer clarification going on as far as the pyramid. So let's say from the major leagues is being level 1 and to where TSC is competing is level 4, simply put. The other teams fall in either the 2 or 3 category at Naples, and so we anticipate that will kind of absorb the Naples United team. So no official word on that, but that's just the projections that we have going forward. But we are confident that there will be a Naples team in the form of Global Pathways, which we can kind of unpack a little more maybe later in the season, or try to make some more sense of that if that's confusing for you. So just to put that in, the one Naples teams I would anticipate based on what we've been told today, of course, this is the end of January. So take that as you will, right? So there's only so much to go off of for the time being. So that is what the conference breakup. There's one other team that you may be, missing going on, and that is Columbus. What's going on with Columbus? They were a good introduction to the league. TSC had some great games with them, including the playoff game, which, if you listened to last season action or been consuming the content here for TallySCtalk, you know how that goes. But they have not had a lot of rumored to be coming back to the NPSL. With their ownership group and a lot of the teams, or some of the teams that they are supported by that ownership group, basically where the money comes from. The money elsewhere is trending towards other leagues. Ownership has league affiliations all across the nation as far as lower league soccer. A lot of teams that they support with the people and their supporters and all that stuff. So investors, I should say, not necessarily supporters. I think that's a bad term. Investors and people with the bankroll are all over the nation. One of those big investors in Columbus has fingerprints in all those teams. That's what I'm trying to say. So Columbus's organization, all those other low-key affiliated teams that aren't really affiliated, but you follow the money trail, so they are affiliated, they have been making a jump to USL2. So I haven't heard anything official, but I think the door is open for that USL2 jump to be made. So not necessarily a gain as far as the tiers. USL2 is probably on tier 4, equal to the league that Tallahassee Soccer Club is in, but it's also got a USL championship component, and there's a path to progression, or it's just in generally a more solid, siloed version of lower league soccer to help facilitate promotion and some other things, and just exposure as well. So a trend that we've seen a lot lately going through lower league is a lot of teams jumping over to this competitive league, the United Soccer League, USL. They have the USL Championship, USL2, all that good stuff. So a lot of teams at this level the Tallahassee Soccer Club is in have been making that jump. So that's a topic I'd love to break down on basically its own podcast or its own conversation. I'd love to get in touch with our buddies over at Lower League USA. They do a fantastic job covering lower league soccer. So if you're looking to understand a little more or just keep up with the sport and what it means here across the nation, but all these non-professional leagues, basically the MLS is the big one, right? And the national team. Everybody knows about the men's and women's national teams. Most people know about the MLS, right? And so these are basically everything below the professional ranks, so lower league soccer. So they're a fantastic resource. We highly recommend you check them out. I think lowerleagueusa.com is the website. They're on most social medias. Check them out. Also, while we're talking about different media things, and of course, things that you should check out, your own Tallahassee Soccer Club is putting together a little historic podcast. I think they've just got the one episode out now, but I've been told that they're going to be functioning basically as kind of like a history lesson of the club. So it's super cool. The first episode, very informative, but that is, I think, Tallahassee SC Behind the Pride. Is that the name of the here? Inside the Pride, excuse me. So we'll go ahead and have those links below appropriately for those of you watching the full-length podcast here for you today. But definitely a couple media outlets that you want to check out. And then, of course, selfishly, we got to plug us, right? You see the ticker, TallySCtalk on social media. Going to be able to provide you some context as well. But those are the big things going on for you here. So all that to put in a bundle of what the scene, what the conference looks like. That's what we have going forward, kind of the big questions that are in the mix here. So another one, not necessarily my biggest question. Maybe this is question as I look at my notes. This is probably question 4, right, on the priority list. What does the squad look like? So I think ultimately the best story of this club are the people. It's very pro player. It's very local based. We love our soccer community, our soccer players, our homegrown guys, the guys that come in and want to help grow the game here in the 850. All right. So nothing official that I can go off of. I've been sworn to secrecy from management, and so I will not discuss specific players. What I can tell you is looking at the trends, knowing where people are as far as age and career and a lot of that stuff, that I think the youth movement that has been cresting these last couple of years, you had kind of an elder start to the team. You started to see the infusion the last 2 or 3 years, especially Coach Joel really kind of turned up the heat on that. As far as the youth movement, I think this is the year that crest kind of crashes down, is the new wave of the young players. I think we're going to see a lot of young talent coming through the Tallahassee area, and something I'm really excited about. And we know some of our homegrown guys that have been coming up through the ranks that may not catch the headlines, right, but have been doing some really cool stuff. We're really excited about them and kind of in general the new flavor that we'll get here in the 2025 season here for Tallahassee Soccer Club. So we will keep you posted, and we will have some deep dives, and we will have some interviews, and we will have some intrigue and some storylines with those players, because ultimately that's how you sell this thing, right? Is the players and everything that goes into that, the players, the community, how the mesh is there. So we don't want that to be a lost point, something we're going to even more so try to emphasize this year. Whether that's in our preseason interviews or just throughout the season, highlighting those guys. That's going to be a big point of emphasis. And if anything that you'd like to see, like we said, hit us in the comments, slide into those DMs, reach out. We'd love to incorporate different things that you'd love to see for your local soccer club. This is a little bit of an open sourced operation here. It's bootleg. It's fly by night. It's a little rough given the personalities if you've been along for quite some time, but we're trying to give you a solid base of information with some input and with some historical elements that we've been tracking the team with some good context and some integrity. Granted, TSC podcast, right? So there's going to be the bias there, but we also want to give you an honest picture and an honest evaluation, things to look for, things to not look for. So all that kind of being put on a bow. Players largely unknown, which goes to another point of basically the final question that we had going into this. Tryouts are still on. So there are open tryouts. So there's still players in the area that come in, move to the area for work or for school or whatever that we don't know about, right? There's always new people coming in. So that's going to be played out January 25th. If you're watching this, the date that we publish, that's tomorrow. So, of course, tight turnaround. And with the sloppy weather, the nasty weather that's been going on in Tallahassee, that is still on. It will be cold, but they said the field is good to go. The dates are still locked down. The roads are clearing up, so it should be pretty good to get out there here to the 25th. We'll also put that registration below. Maybe you're an interested player that somehow stumbled upon this a day before a tryout. So hopefully we're able to get those going, but you're able to register there. We'll make sure to put that link in as well. So those were the big questions from staff that we had going on. Hey, what do we want to see? Of course, X's and O's we'll get to later down the line. The players and stuff that we have information for you, those will get later down the line. So those are coming soon. Don't lose the faith. But we wanted to kind of acknowledge those big points because although you may not be super concerned what that landscape looks like, those 3 to 4 things will shape how the rest of the season goes. So crucial in that regard and how that plays out, what the schedule looks like, what the opponents will look like, who win, home and away splits, number of contests we have here, all that good stuff. So having said that, we got to get into the notes. We got to get into the note bag here, see what the people have. So we put out a little feeler as I'm getting some text notifications here actively on some of this stuff to see what we have left. And so some of these coming through in the DMs, some of these coming through publicly. So I know one thing that was brought up was the players, right? So we already addressed the players. That was one thing that we had kind of talked about. That's the youth movement. You can expect that to be full blown. that's going to be big time this year. A lot of young players going to be getting their shot, even more so for those that have been developing. So I think that's one thing you can anticipate. Outside of that, we've been sworn to secrecy, like I said, so we won't get that many players here going on. Another thing as we kind of look at our notes. So once again, we have a player question from one of the fans here. They want to know about Audie Jepson. Is he going to be coming back? They said favorite player from the 2024 season. What's he looking like? Is Audie coming back? Once again, sorry, sworn to secrecy on that time frame. Next episode, we hope to have some more clarification, or maybe let's say the duct tape will come off for us. We'll be able to unzip a little more that we have seen. So we're looking forward to that. So thanks, Bob, for that input. Another question we're getting here in the DMs. What kept Coach DeCastri awake this offseason? Sleepless nights. I'm sure there's some things he's taken forward. We're going to talk to Coach here. We'll get with him, and I'll make sure we put that on our question list here for our fans that had it going on. But, of course, more questions coming in. Make sure ask TSCTP. Hashtag that bad boy, or hit us in the DMs. All season long, we're going to be taking questions. Would love for your feedback. Another question for the people. What's Trent's pick for new hair care product of the year? So what's Trent going to be doing to keep that long hair flowing? Last time I saw my boy, he still had the long hair. Of course, like we said, he had pressing matters. He was unable to join us this week. Of course, weather and makeups and cancellations and people's work schedule are wild this week in Tallahassee. For those that aren't in the area with the snow and the wintry mix, it's been troublesome. So that'll be a make sure question that we have for you kind of coming on. So as you can see, a lot of questions to start the season, not a lot of answers, but these are things we're putting a pin in and we will get to later on. So we're going to have to ask Trent those questions, among others. But hair care products coming soon. If you got a hair care product, this is a perfect opportunity to get into the ground floor. Kind of an NIL deal with our boy Trent Young. You want to get that promoted on the pod? Boom. Hit the DMs, hit the email, TallySCtalk@gmail.com. Business inquiries. We will consider those. We've been looking for a chief host of the podcast here. So why not go for it? Why not be you? Maybe you got a little post-game beverage that you'd be interested in doing so. That's also on the table. Some more area questions. That was kind of a lot of the schematics. We saw a lot of questions, of course, we talked about here. Who's going to be the best players coming in? That's going to be one thing. That's open to interpretation. Something we'll get to, though. We'll talk about the hot dogs that are coming in through here. Not only the hot dogs that TSC provides at the stadium, which are dope. If you've seen the hot dog scene. If not, that's going to be a video that we should probably put below, or maybe I'll add a little feature for you to click on here of the hot dogs we enjoyed last year. Thanks to the kids, the troops, the boys and girls clubs of Tallahassee providing those throughout the season. One of the great community sponsors for the club. So that'll be one thing. Let's check out these more. Oh, yeah. So, of course, we love to encourage league participation. So, of course, Pensacola, there's a good base out in Pensacola of a fan base that tunes in with us and gets our league source, and that I feel like we have a good rapport with. But the Pelican Army wants to know predictions for the 850 Cup this season. Oof. So I think once we start to get player news from both clubs, we'll be able to get you something accurate, right? And maybe a couple games in to see how the flow goes. Obviously, history's on the side of PFC, and I think that's essentially what they were getting at, right? Pensacola Football Club, 4-time reigning champs of the 850 Cup, which is the rivalry series of all teams out here in the Panhandle. Here, that's done by the Tallahassee, formerly the Panama City team, and, of course, the Pensacola team. So we had kind of a triad rivalry going here, which has kind of been boiled down to us in Pensacola. Great frenemies are the people out in Pensacola. Good relationship club-wise from both of the leaderships and the head coaches. And then also I think the fan bases are really solid. We've had a lot of fun contests. Of course, the elusive one, the 850 Cup, going to Pensacola, now 4-time reigning champs. One thing I would be willing to put money on is the game in the away game in Pensacola is going to be a tie. I'd book that now. So if I could get some great odds, I'd hit that now. It has never not been a tie in the history of these clubs going back since they were their original league back in the GCPL days, pre-COVID, that these teams have been going back. It's been a tie every single time, so I'm confident to book that right now. The game in Tallahassee, that's, of course, the winner-take-all, right? That's who is the champ of the Cup of Cups, and that has been Pensacola in the past. So I shout out to Pelican Army. Like we said, we'll get some league knowledge here, so we'd love to kind of get some input and some track records from other teams going on in the club, but we know they're always rocking the social media. So that's my half-hearted prediction there. We'll get you halfway and put a bookmark in it, like most of these questions. Will get you to the end of the season. Looking at some other notes. What else do we have here? There's a game to watch. Game of the year or opponent of the year was another question. Once again, we're not for sure locked down on the schedule and the opponents, but we'll be able to get to that further in the season. So that's why more of this is like a pressing questions episode, is because ultimately it's less about the answers, more about the questions. So we gave you the kind of highbrow stuff, the big perspectives early on, but it's really much of what we have going on. But that's the exercise, right? Come with us on this journey, or maybe this can be an appetizer for you. Hey, do you like what's going on here? Or myself and Trent, who's going to be the guest, or just how we do things pretty often. So maybe that'll be a little sampler for you, but don't let me spoil it for you. My boy Trent adds a lot of flavor here and a lot of great analysis later on, so don't let me wreck that for you here, but always on the table, right? So that's basically looking to see if we get kind of any more questions as we're searching back for here for the hashtags. Of course, this is pre-recorded. We're looking to do some live shows this year, and we're looking to be more consistent. So we're trying to pick out a day or two during the week here for the podcast, and we'd love to go live, so your input will be even more so kind of ballooned out. But we'll stay tuned for those announcements and those things going forward. Also, some potential growth with the podcast, that we may have some exciting news and collaborations from soccer in the area. So we'll keep you posted on that. But that's all we have here for TallySCtalk. Thanks for coming aboard with us here. Once again, all those questions, hashtag AskTSCTP. Able to hit those or hit the social media DMs. I'm Andrew Jupe. Thanks for coming aboard with us. And if you're going out to tryouts, or just so you know, January 25th, you get the first look at what the new bylines would look like. So much, much more to come here from your friends at TallySCtalk Podcast. I'm Andrew Jupe. And for my missing friend in action here, Trenton Young, all the best and have a great rest of your off season.